Hello, and welcome back to the Scary Stories channel. Tonight's scary story is about an imaginary friend named Jack. Growing up, I think we all had some sort of imaginary friend, didn't we? Somebody our innocent mind created when we needed somebody to talk to. Child me was no exception to this. His name was Jack. For some reason, I always remembered that. The first time I ever really remember him is when I was about 2 years old, almost 3. I would wake up in the middle of the night to see him staring at me, poking his head out from under my bed. Did anyone here watch Scooby-Doo? If you did you ever watch the Cloaked Cavalier episode? I did, and it scared me growing up. I wasn't scared of any other episode, just that one. Maybe it was because of how human he was, how real he could actually be. Anyways, if you did happen to watch that episode, that's what child me decided Jack looked like. It's been years, and I don't remember if I ever really saw him. I just remember how I imagined him. Back when I still saw him, my family and I were living in a tiny, creepy, run-down 2-story house that was at least a mile away from the nearest neighbor. My mom told me later that, while in that house, I would often wake up in the morning, walk up to her, and start babbling about how Jack had scared me the night before. I was almost 3 when we moved into our current house, and with the move, my occurrences with Jack seemed to slowly stop over time. I guess I grew out of it. Now, let's fast forward to a few weeks ago. It was the weekend, and I was visiting my mom's house. We were just talking about everything like we always do. Somehow, I ended up bringing Jack up. She wasn't surprised that I remembered him, as growing up my family always joked with me about him. She also wasn't surprised that I didn't remember the first time I ever saw him. I'd like to note that up until this point, my family had always told me there was no way Jack could be real, that he was only a figment of my imagination. My mom explained that when we were still in our old house, I would sleep in bed with her, while my dad stayed with my 5-year-old brother downstairs. One night, she woke up to hear me whimpering. Nothing too extreme, just tiny noises that she could barely hear. That was when she felt it, and froze. She remembered that she had the feeling that somebody else was in the room, more specifically, sitting on the edge of the bed. You know the feeling, when you can just sense another presence with you. It's pretty eerie. At first she assumed it was just my dad, coming to check up on us, but, for some reason, that just didn't feel right to her. Whoever it was, didn't seem like they were there for anything good. That was when she realized it wasn't my dad, and somebody was in the house. Then, as soon as it had appeared, it was gone. I'd fallen back asleep, but my mom never did that night. The next morning, after my older brothers had been woken up and sent to school, my mom, still uneasy, was in the kitchen making coffee. I was playing near the bottom of the stairs, in view of the kitchen. The way our lights were set up, if the light in the kitchen was on, you could see into the living room, but not the stairs. At this time, the light in both the living room and the stairwell were both off, leaving the stairs pitch black. When my mom came to check on me, she saw that I was just playing, like usual, and was about to go back to the kitchen when I started talking. "Mom, look," she remembers me saying. Then I pointed to the stairs in front of me, staring innocently into the darkness. "Jack's here." In that moment, she felt it again. She felt his presence. As soon as I said that, she looked to where I was pointing and saw nothing, but felt this intense hatred and anger coming from there. After this, I'd come to have nightmares and experiences of Jack. That ended up playing a pretty big role in my parents' ultimate decision to move. I remember none of this ever happening. I don't remember that night, seeing him, the morning after, or even the nightmares. My mom does, and she knows she'll never forget it. She thinks that he could have been somebody who lived in the house before us, maybe even the one who built the house. The records for the previous owners aren't accessible to us, and Jack probably isn't even his real name. so it's likely we'll never know. Growing up, we all have some form of imaginary friend, don't we? Somebody our innocent mind creates when we need somebody to talk to. Child me was no exception to this. The thing is, I'm pretty sure my Jack wasn't imaginary. So, did you have an imaginary friend? Do you have a child who has been talking to a phantom being? Is this just part of the mind creating a companion, or is it something much more sinister? These are good questions to ponder as you are going to sleep tonight. As always, good night, everyone. Good night, Jack, and all of the others out there. Sleep tight from the Scary Stories channel.